New evidence tonight that North Korea's ambitious young supreme commander may soon have another submarine to command and a new way to threaten the U.S. New satellite photos just published by the website Beyond Parallel show what appears to be new activity at the Sinpo South shipyard in North Korea, where Kim Jong-un's regime builds many of its submarines. Two support submarines, a larger sub and a so-called midget sub, are parked there, along with another support vessel. There's a crane, a vehicle in one photo, and people at the dock. Analysts believe it all could be to support this, an enormous nuclear-capable submarine being built or renovated, which Kim was photographed inspecting last month at a nearby location. Experts say the shipyard activity could mean the North Koreans are preparing for a crucial test.
The purpose of this vessel may be to take the test barge out into open waters and test a submarine-launched ballistic missile.
CNN talked to a top Pentagon official about the new pictures.
We see very intentional modernization on the part of the DPRK.
What concerns you about the development of that submarine?
Well, you know, if you extrapolate far enough, they're looking for a capability that makes them a more potent adversary.
Another senior U.S. official has told CNN the U.S. has been tracking the development of this sub for a year and a half. Kim successfully test-fired a ballistic missile from a smaller submarine in 2016, a vessel which experts say could hold one nuclear-tipped missile. This larger one, they say, could hold 3 or more. These subs give Kim the ability to launch nuclear missiles that would be harder to detect in advance, and analysts fear he's trying to develop a longer-range submarine.
They could potentially, within the next decade, develop submarines capable of transiting the Pacific Ocean within range sufficient to launch missile strikes against the United States.
Now turning overseas, today British Prime Minister Boris Johnson made an extraordinary move to force through his Brexit plan. He got Parliament suspended until mid-October. Elizabeth Palmer reports on the outrage that followed.
Just when it looked as if Brexit, Britain's exit from the European Union, couldn't get any bumpier, it did. These protesters are outraged by Boris Johnson's latest move.
I am answering. I'm telling you, Mr.
Order.
After months of dysfunctional wrangling by parliamentarians over the terms of Brexit, the Prime Minister appears to have had enough. He's decided to shut down Parliament in September for more than a month, and he says reopen it in October with fresh priorities.
We're bringing forward a new legislative programme on crime, on hospitals, and making sure that we have the education funding that we need.
The Queen, on vacation in Scotland, gave the plan the royal rubber stamp. But Johnson's critics, including many in Parliament, are furious.
This is a coup, and we've got to stop it.
Suspending Parliament will muzzle debate and foil the bitter opposition to Johnson's Brexit at all-cost plans, which many analysts say will bring economic meltdown.
A Queens teenager is due in court after being accused in an ISIS terror plot. FBI agents arrested the 19-year-old at his home in East Elmhurst last night. And CBSN New York's Jenna DeAngelis is outside Brooklyn Federal Court with more details for us. Jenna, what can you tell us?
Well, Natalie, authorities have not yet released the name of the suspect, but we're expected to learn a lot more about him and his plans here in federal court today. What we know so far, he was allegedly plotting a terror attack somewhere in Queens in the name of ISIS.
Now to that breaking news for our viewers in the West. Reports of a serious boat fire off the coast of California with dozens of people on board. A rescue operation is underway right now, and ABC's Will Carr has the very latest. Good morning, Will.
In Cecilia, authorities tell us that at least 30 people are missing right now on the waters of the Pacific Ocean. That is where a desperate search is taking place, not far from where we are right now. The first call came in just after 3 a.m. this morning, and we're seeing the images of that charter boat. You can see the boat is a ball of flames on the water. We know that at least 30 people are missing. 5 have been rescued. Authorities say that this is a charter boat. It is a 79-foot boat that can house more than 40 people on any given night. It's unclear exactly how many people were on that boat. We also don't know exactly what caused this fire. We do know authorities are desperately combing the waters, looking for survivors at this point.
Thousands of Optimum customers are without their cable, internet, and phone service. The company reporting a widespread outage that includes parts of New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut, and says it's working to restore service as quickly as possible. An Optimum outage map shows the extent of the problem here. Many police departments are sending out text alerts to residents. Ossining Police in Westchester County posted on Facebook, "Please don't tie up our lines to ask when your TV will come back on. We need those to be free for actual emergencies."
An American is among 2 NATO service members killed in the latest Taliban attack in the capital of Afghanistan. The car bomb in Kabul yesterday killed 12 people and wounded 42 others. It's part of a string of attacks launched by the Taliban this week as the militant group reportedly edges closer to a peace deal with the U.S. Charlie D'Agata is in the Afghan capital. Charlie, why is the Taliban launching these attacks now?
Well, good morning, Anthony. They're launching these attacks now because these peace negotiations are underway. And while they may be talking peace in Doha, here in Afghanistan, they're still waging war in the most brutal way. Now, take a look at this video from yesterday's attack not far from the U.S. Embassy, killing that U.S. service member you mentioned and another NATO soldier, as well as at least 10 civilians near the U.S. Embassy.
Taliban is pledging to continue fighting against U.S. forces in Afghanistan. This comes after the president announced peace talks between the group and the U.S. were, quote, dead. The president had planned a secret meeting with Taliban leaders at Camp David just a few days before 9/11, the anniversary of that tragedy, but he canceled it after the Taliban killed a U.S. soldier in a car bombing. A Taliban spokesman told the wire service AFP there were 2 ways to end occupation in Afghanistan. One is fighting and one is talking. The spokesman said if the president wants to stop talking, they will choose to fight.
U.S. President Donald Trump has fired National Security Advisor John Bolton. Trump says he disagreed with many of Bolton's opinions and advice. Bolton is well known for his hawkish views, especially on Iran.
John Bolton was skeptical about the president's approach to diplomacy with North Korea and with Iran, where Mr. Bolton favoured regime change. He was also opposed to peace talks with the Taliban, which Donald Trump scrapped at the weekend.
New developments in the battle against ISIS. A U.S.-led coalition dropping 80,000 pounds of bombs on an island in Iraq filled with members of the terror group. James Longman is in London with all the details. Good morning, James.
Good morning, Michael. Quite extraordinary images out of Iraq. Take a look. U.S. Air Force Command has released footage of its planes dropping around 80,000 pounds of bombs on an island described as infested by ISIS. It all took place earlier this week and was recorded from the air. You can see those bombs spread across the whole area, effectively carpet bombed. Now, F-15s and F-35, some of the U.S.'s most advanced warplanes, were taking part in the mission. Huge mushroom clouds were visible for miles around. And all this shows ISIS is still very much a threat. Donald Trump claimed victory over the group, but after losing control of the so-called caliphate, ISIS sleeper cells melted back into the population and have since launched deadly attacks. And over in Syria, refugee camps are proving fertile ground for extremists. Take a look. Children dancing around an ISIS flag there. And of course, whilst airstrikes like those in Iraq can wipe out large groups of fighters, it's hard to beat the ideology with bombs alone.
We had peace talks scheduled a few days ago. I called them off when I learned that they had killed a great American soldier from Puerto Rico and 11 other innocent people. They thought they would use this attack to show strength, but actually what they showed is unrelenting weakness. The last 4 days, we have hit our enemy harder than they have ever been hit before, and that will continue.
Just minutes ago, as Netanyahu was at a campaign event, look here, security forces rushed him off the stage because our team in Jerusalem reports Palestinians fired large rockets from the Gaza into 2 major cities in the Israeli south. It's breaking now. Trey Yingst reporting live in our Jerusalem newsroom. Trey?
Shep, that's exactly right. In the last hour, 2 rockets were fired from the Gaza Strip into southern Israel. This is significant for 2 reasons. The first, these are major rockets. They are targeting large Israeli cities, including Ashkelon and Sderot. This is significant for another reason, because as you can see in this video, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was actually speaking in one of those cities at an election rally. Now, he was rushed off the stage as he told attendees to take shelter. Here's what we know so far. At least one of the rockets was intercepted by Israel's missile defense system, the Iron Dome. There are reports of other rockets landing in open areas.
In Afghanistan, a powerful explosion occurred near the U.S. Embassy in Kabul early this morning. In fact, our guest was referring to this news item. Images circulated on the social media billowing out of the embassy building, where several embassies are located. No casualties have been reported so far. No group has claimed responsibility for the attack. The blast has come just a day after the Taliban pledged to retaliate after U.S. President Donald Trump ended the peace talks abruptly.
The US president has confirmed the death of Osama bin Laden's son. Hamza was killed in a counter-terrorism operation, although the White House has not revealed where or when it took place.
Hamza bin Laden, the high-ranking al-Qaeda member and son of Osama bin Laden, was killed in a United States counterterrorism operation in the Afghanistan-Pakistan region. Last month, our colleague Jennifer Griffin asked Defense Secretary Mark Esper about him in his first television interview.
Did the U.S. kill Hamza bin Laden? Where was it?
Yeah, I don't have the details on that, and if I did, I'm not sure how much I could share with you, but I'd have to get back with you on that one.
But Hamza bin Laden is dead.
That's my understanding.
Hamza was believed to be around 30 years old. In February, the State Department put a $1 million bounty on his head. That's normally the first step before drone strikes are authorized to kill a terrorist leader. U.S. officials described Hamza as an emerging al-Qaeda leader who has threatened attacks against the United States.
Multiple drones bombed Saudi Arabia's largest oil facilities today. And tonight, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo accused Iran of launching the attack and ruled out a claim of responsibility by Yemeni rebels. The attack damaged the source of an estimated 8 million barrels of crude oil produced there every day. That's about 10% of the world's daily supply of crude oil. Here's Roxana Saberi.
Flames and black smoke filled the sky over the world's largest oil processing plant in Saudi Arabia this morning, spreading so far they could even be seen from space. Saudi Arabia confirmed that Abqaiq refinery and Khares oil field, the country's second biggest, were both hit by drone strikes.
And new fallout from that attack on Saudi Arabia's largest oil facility. Here is a brand new statement from the president writing on Twitter. Saudi Arabia oil supply was attacked. There is reason to believe that we know the culprit, are locked and loaded depending on verification, but are waiting to hear from the kingdom as to who they believe was the cause of this attack and under what terms we would proceed. He went on to say there's plenty of oil. Amid concerns this attack could affect markets tomorrow. A senior administration official also telling CNN earlier these strikes likely originated in Iran or Iraq. As we get brand new images showing the purported damage that has affected 5% of the global oil supply. CNN's Jeremy Diamond is live at the White House for us. And Jeremy, tonight we're seeing the president really trying to calm nerves.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the most serious statement that we've seen from the president so far on these attacks on Saudi oil facilities that took place yesterday. The president here suggesting that the United States is locked and loaded, which suggests some sort of potential military response once the United States has identified with certainty who was responsible for this attack on Saudi oil facilities.
A Belgian F-16 fighter jet has come crashing down in western France, damaging a house, setting a field ablaze, and leaving one of 2 pilots dangling by his parachute from a live power line. The pilots flagged an engine problem yesterday morning before being forced to eject. The jet plunged into a field and, amazingly, the pilots and people nearby escaped without injury.
The Washington Monument is set to reopen to the public tomorrow. It was closed for most of the last 10 years because of damage and repairs. Now, only on CBS This Morning, our cameras were allowed up for a special first look. And Jan Crawford is making history at the top of the monument. Jan, good morning.
Well, good morning. I mean, this is special. Like you said, no network has ever broadcast live from the top of the Washington Monument. And what a view. I mean, look, you can see behind me the Lincoln Memorial. And this is a vantage point that most visitors to the nation's capital haven't had for much of the past decade. The Washington Monument closed, many wondering when they would ever be able to get to the top of this American wonder again.
It's a symbol of America, instantly recognizable. 10,000 tons of pure marble, anchored into bedrock right below the swamp. The Washington Monument, once the tallest structure in the world, with those sweeping views of centers of power like the Capitol and Pentagon. It's brought us a bird's eye view of some of America's biggest moments. Inaugurations, Martin Luther King Jr.'s March on Washington.
It's an icon of this country.
An icon. I mean, an icon.
It is, and central to so many people's visits to D.C.
But the city's centerpiece sat shuttered, closed to tourists for most of the past decade. 2011, a rare East Coast earthquake rattled the region, raining rocks on dozens of visitors who survived more than 2 terrifying minutes at the observation deck 500 feet up. Everyone got out alive, but the more than century-old monument didn't escape unscathed.
The earthquake damage was extensive.
Engineers rappelled off the top, providing this heart-pounding look down. And what they found scared the Park Service enough to close the attraction to tourists and trigger a $15 million restoration project. It was a monumental task to fix the massive marble obelisk with 36,000 separate stones, some cracked so badly the sun shone right in. To begin, engineers had to build this exoskeleton of scaffolding. 3 years later, the monument was back open, but it didn't last. In 2016, a cable snapped in the monument's aging elevator, and for 3 more years, no tourists could reach the top. Now, with some updates to the elevator and this new security screening facility at the base, Washington's best view is again ready for visitors.
And so when those doors open on Thursday, you don't expect them to close again for a few years anytime soon.
They will stay open, and we look forward to probably 500,000 people or so a year.
Well, it's such a great honor to have the First Lady with us today for the reopening of the Washington Monument.
Mike, please, just tell us what you know. Capitol's been attacked. Congress, Cabinet. Eagle is gone.
Your masters of war.
We used to be ordinary people with ordinary lives, trained in secret, only to be activated if the worst happened. 7 months ago, that day came.
Around the country, we fought to hold things together while the virus tore us apart. We thought we had turned the tide until the distress call came from Washington.
Our capital is falling. Our leaders are dead or missing.
Dark forces are moving to take control of our nation, and we are the only hope to stop it.
We are the last line of defense.
We are the people.
Making a stand to unite DC.
And your death will come soon.
We are the Division. And history will remember us.
Team player introductions are supposed to be exciting, but not this exciting. The Tennessee Titans decided to use flame-throwing boxes to spice things up before kickoff against the Colts, but one of them tipped over, causing a huge blaze. You see it there. Fans didn't appear to be too bothered as black smoke spewed into their faces. Fortunately, the grounds crew were able to contain the fire before it got any worse or anyone was injured.
Home to America's greatest pastime, soon to be home to America's greatest mass grave. On Yom Medin, in the beginning of the ball game, one of us will start a strategically placed fire inside the stands. The stadium officials will call the fire department, and in accordance to their standing emergency response protocol, they will evacuate all of the fans onto the field. But instead of LA's bravest, it's going to be Islam's bravest who show up with our emergency command vehicle. When the vehicle's on the field, we'll detonate it, including all of the containers inside of it, releasing a phosgene cloud that will blanket the entire stadium within seconds.
Fucking awesome. We'll kill 50,000 unbelievers in one attack.
Well, actually, that number is on the low side. We're not alone.
What do you mean?
There are 2 other units of the faithful in 2 other cities. On Yom Medin, they will carry out simultaneous attacks on baseball stadiums in their respective cities, using a mixture of unconventional weapons. If all 3 attacks go off as planned, inshallah, the death toll could rise up to 150,000.
It'll be the biggest disaster in American history.
Years of civil war.
There's nothing simple about it.
This is bigger now. Chemical weapons have fallen into terrorist hands. They could be anywhere.
We need to move fast.
What do you suggest?
A business trip. Farah! Let's talk! I need your help.
Because of this poison, my people have known something worse than war.
Help us track it.
If you stay, we can help you. But if you stay, you fight.
Yelling Atul.
The invaders of my country have no regard for human life. We live like this every day. Any further complications and we're at war.
They're breaking through now. We need a new extraction point fast.
Save yourself, daughter. Join us.
I lead soldiers. You train killers.
But we are all killers here, no?
How about you, Captain? Are you gonna let them die?
Chemical weapons are now in the wild. Fix it.
Where do we draw the line, sir?
You draw the line.
No time! Stop!
Wherever you need it. What the hell is this?
It's the off switch. We're all just pawns in this.
You speak for yourself.
This is crazy.
Yeah, but we're a little crazy, aren't we? The rules of engagement have changed. If you can't identify the target,
You are the target.
This is a very loud, if impressive spectacle. The simulated faux Islamic terrorists have predictably been beaten back, and just a few meters away from us we have military observers from all over the world. I counted at least a dozen NATO badges watching the show, watching the spectacle. Vladimir Putin with the president of Kyrgyzstan in the stands as well, 20 or so meters away from us. But there's a purpose to this. This isn't just a show for enjoyment or a spectacle. This is an exercise to form unity, to form cooperation between Asian nations, Asian states that are threatened by Islamic radicalism. And this is their effort to sort of get to know each other, get to work together. Even India and Pakistan at odds with each other, open conflict, working together here behind me, as I reported earlier. The story is radical Islamists, terrorists, have come to power in a simulated Central Asian republic. They've formed a quasi-caliphate, if you will. And the mission is to stop them, to prevent them from seizing any more territory. They've come into possession of advanced weapons and are being belligerent towards participating nations. And participating are 8 countries, representing a good half of the world's population. China, India, Pakistan, Russia, as well as 4 Central Asian republics. Their mission is to stop the terrorists.
The likelihood of a global disease outbreak is growing, and quoting now, the world is not prepared. That's the report out of a new panel of international health experts, including the former chief of the World Health Organization. It cites the centuries-old influenza pandemic as an example, which killed as many as 50 million people, when the population here was much smaller. Researchers say should a similar health scare or catastrophe strike, it could kill up to 80 million people and wipe out 5% of the global economy.
Once again, storm clouds are gathering over the Trump presidency, this time with a whole new intensity.
I'm announcing the House of Representatives moving forward with an official impeachment inquiry.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi had in the past expressed her reluctance to pursue an impeachment inquiry. Not anymore.
The actions of the Trump presidency revealed the dishonorable fact of the president's betrayal of his oath of office, betrayal of our national security, and betrayal of the integrity of our elections.
Tonight, the president insists he has nothing to fear.
They all say that's a positive for me from the election. You could also say, who needs it? It's bad for the country.
The Trump campaign says this will only embolden and energize President Trump's supporters. And the White House accuses the Democrats of trying to weaponize politics when they should be working for their constituents.
Everybody knows that it's just a Democrat witch hunt.